Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Qizhi. Coming up in this edition, both Israeli and Palestinian health authorities have reported the detection of polio in samples of sewage circulating in Gaza as living conditions continue to worsen. Donald Trump has accepted the Republican Party's nomination in the US presidential race. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has won a second 5-year term, vowing to boost the EU's industries and defense. We begin in the Middle East. Israel is investigating an apparent drone attack that hit central Tel Aviv in the early hours of Friday. At least one man is dead and several others were injured. The blast occurred hours after the Israeli military confirmed it had killed a senior Hezbollah commander in southern Lebanon. Yemen's Houthi militants announced on social media that they would reveal details about the military operation that had targeted Tel Aviv. Hezbollah and the Houthis have stepped up attacks against Israel and Western targets to show solidarity with the Palestinians. Meantime, Gaza health authorities report the number of Palestinian deaths has risen to over 38,800 people since the fighting broke out last October. Israeli forces say they killed about 20 Hamas fighters in airstrikes on Thursday. The Red Cross says medical facilities in Gaza are at a breaking point. Both Israeli and Palestinian health authorities have reported the detection of polio in samples of sewage circulating in Gaza as living conditions continue to deteriorate. Akram al-Satari has more from Han Yunis.
Well, the situation continues to be extremely catastrophic, and the bombardment has been reported in different parts of the Gaza Strip, and mainly in the Gaza Center area and Khan Yunis area, and also Rafah area, where bodies are still being collected, and also people who are injured because of the ongoing targeting in different parts of Rafah, and the ongoing destruction has been going on for the last few days. When it comes to the medical condition in the Gaza Strip, the situation of health facilities is extremely catastrophic. The Palestinian Minister of Health have been appealing to the international community to step in and to provide solutions and answers to never-ending problems resulting from the continuous bombardment and continuous targeting of those health facilities. EGH, European Gaza Hospital, is still coming to a full disruption because of the bombardment and because of the evacuation orders that were provided to the people who are living in that area and the whole area of East Khan Yunis, leaving around 250,000 Palestinians displaced and fearful of any Israeli ground operation starting in that area. Palestinians also have been extremely frustrated when they hear the Knesset decision, the Israeli parliament decision, not to recognize a Palestinian state on the soil of Israel like was described, or that's just near Israel.
That was Akram al-Satari on the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza. In North America, Donald Trump has formally accepted the Republican Party's nomination for president, days after an assassination attempt at a campaign rally. Trump described in detail how he survived the shooting on July the 14th. The former U.S. president has promised what he called an incredible victory in the November elections. Philip Crowther with the Associated Press has the latest from Milwaukee in the U.S. state of Wisconsin.
This was the very first time that Donald Trump, the former president and the nominee for the Republican Party, spoke publicly and at length about the assassination attempt at the weekend. A reminder thereof during this whole 4-day convention, that bandage he has had on his right ear that he had on again tonight during his long speech here on stage at the Republican convention. Again, Donald Trump said that it was only thanks to God that he was able to survive that shooting on Saturday. That is something that many of the speakers on this stage behind me have been saying over the last few days. But the most important part was, of course, the official nomination of Donald Trump this weekend, and during this speech, his official acceptance of that nomination. Here it is.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
This, at the end of the day, was a pretty long and rambling acceptance speech from Donald Trump, in which he made plenty of promises if he was to make his way back to the White House. He brought on stage here with him at the very end his pick for the vice presidency, J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, on stage together with Donald Trump and their respective families. They now head off on the campaign trail together, their first campaign rally together, as the ticket for the Republican Party will be this Saturday in Michigan, another key state, much like this one here in Wisconsin.
That was Philip Crowther reporting. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden is facing more pressure to quit the 2024 presidential race. U.S. media say two of his key Democratic allies, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, have privately told him to quit the race as he grapples with a COVID diagnosis. In Europe, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has won another term in office. Von der Leyen, who became the Commission's first female leader in 2019, won 401 votes in a 720-seat chamber, exceeding the majority required to maintain her position. Alex Cadier reports from Brussels.
Investment.
This was Ursula von der Leyen's make-or-break moment. A speech that many said would seal her fate, as MEPs made up their minds about supporting her second term as European Commission President. Many thought the vote would be on a knife edge. In the end, von der Leyen got far more support than expected.
I cannot begin without expressing how much I am grateful for the trust and the confidence of the majority of the European Parliament.
Her speech was described as a European Christmas tree, with presents for all parts of the political spectrum. And it worked. New tougher migration laws and tripling the number of European border and coast guards, a gift for far-right parties like Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's Brothers of Italy. Left-wing and Green parties were worried about being left out in the cold, but von der Leyen's speech will have reassured many. She won't compromise on Europe's green ambitions. But what about Europe's sluggish economy? Her own European People's Party wanted growth and competitiveness front and centre. Well, they too were on Ursula von der Leyen's gift list.
Our first priority will be prosperity and competitiveness. In the last 5 years, we have weathered the fiercest storm in our union's economic history. We have emerged stronger from the shock of lockdowns, and we have overcome an unprecedented energy crisis.
One person who won't be getting a Christmas card this year is Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Von der Leyen slammed his recent trip to Moscow, which drew the ire of many European leaders. Ursula von der Leyen's wish list had the desired effect. She's back at the helm of the powerful European Commission for 5 more years. Her rebuke of Prime Minister Orbán also shows that there are things she won't compromise on, and support for Ukraine is top of that list. This was Ursula von der Leyen's first big hurdle to clear. It was by no means a done deal just a few hours ago, but having promised a lot to everyone, she's now faced with the daunting task of having to deliver for an embattled Europe and a divided European Parliament.
That was Alex Cadier in Brussels. On the Paris Olympics, with 1 week to go before the opening of Paris 2024, the French capital's bike lanes are ready for tourists, Parisians, and of course Olympic road cyclists. Ross Cullen explains how the city is gearing up to be more bike-friendly.
This is now the second favourite way for Parisians to commute behind walking. A new report shows more people travel by bike than car because it's quicker. And visitors to the French capital for the Olympics are being advised to consider 2 wheels where possible. Metro and buses are also an option. However, some metro stations near Olympic venues will be closed, meaning that hopping on a bike should be one of the smoothest ways to get around during the Olympics. But the cycle lanes have not escaped the impact of Paris 2024. Traffic jams, diversions and the closure of cycle lanes are problems that have been part of the daily life of Parisian riders for weeks. Luckily, the Olympic preparations didn't force me to change my routine, but it did affect my colleague. She usually cycles along the Seine riverside bike lanes. They are now closed to the public. Paris does have plenty of bike lanes, and it's starting to be more bike-friendly, as you can see here, but it's no Amsterdam or Copenhagen yet. Plus here, many cyclists don't respect road rules, such as stopping at red lights. From just 200 kilometres in 2001, cyclists now have more than 1,000 kilometres of tailor-made bike paths. Often concreted off from the rest of the road, these separated lanes provide greater safety for cyclists. Velib is a bike-for-hire scheme that started in Paris in 2007. There are also private companies like Leyen and Dot providing thousands of bikes to meet growing demand. And if cycling in Paris needed another boost, in just 1 week's time, the men's and women's Olympic road cyclists will be racing around this city.
That was Ross Cullen reporting from Paris. Here in China, the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China has adopted a key policy document called the Resolution on Further Deepening Reform Comprehensively to Advance Chinese Modernization. The Central Committee adopted the resolution at its third plenary session in Beijing from Monday to Thursday. Senior party officials from key sectors, including finance, economics, education, and legislative affairs, have each expounded on the policies adopted at the meeting. They emphasized the leadership's commitment to building a high-standard socialist market economy, as well as stimulating innovation and creativity. Sun Tianyuan has details.
The adoption of a reform resolution is the most important outcome of the just concluded 4-day CPC plenary session, said a senior official at a press conference. The 20th CPC Central Committee adopted a resolution on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization at its third plenary session held in Beijing from Monday to Thursday. And according to a communiqué released on Thursday, by 2035, China, quote, will have finished building a high-standard socialist market economy in all respects and further improve the system of socialism with Chinese characteristics, generally modernize its system and capacity for governance, and basically realize socialist modernization, end quote. Chinese authorities say more than 300 important reform measures have been proposed, and some of them are improvements and enhancements to past measures, while others are new proposals based on practical needs. According to the communiqué, the CPC Central Committee made systematic plans for further deepening reforms comprehensively. For example, in building a high-standard socialist market economy, the role of the market must be better leveraged with a fairer and more dynamic market environment to be fostered. Chinese officials call the resolution an important document in CPC history, noting that it not only carries on with deepening reforms comprehensively since the third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee, but also starts a new chapter in advancing Chinese modernization.
That was Sun Tianyuan reporting. And finally, recent data released by the United Nations shows that Beijing is far outpacing Washington in terms of the number of patents. Jody Jacobs has more.
Artificial intelligence, it's the way of the future. And as AI technologies expand, China, it seems, is at the forefront of the global AI race. From Shanghai to Shenzhen, companies are investing heavily in AI-driven innovations, from smart cities to advanced robotics.
There's lots of patents coming out of China in Gen AI and AI more broadly, and I think our report that looks at Gen AI certainly highlights the fact that it's a much more powerful tool than just simple text generation through some of these chatbots that exist online, and that it can really revolutionize many different fields, whether that be in drug development, whether that be in retail, in public transportation, and a wide range of different areas.
In a new report released by the UN's World Intellectual Property Organization, China has filed 6 times more Gen AI patents than the United States. Between 2014 and 2023, the organization says China filed more than 38,000 Gen AI inventions. In comparison, the United States filed just over 6,000 during the same period. Generative AI refers to the use of AI to create new content like text messages, images, music and videos. And the United Nations says this could change the face of industries like publishing, transportation and security. With China already leading this race in the laboratory, its advancements are mirrored on the international diplomatic stage. In early July, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution put forward by China calling for stronger international cooperation on artificial intelligence. China emphasizing the need for all UN member states, no matter how big or small, to enjoy equal opportunities in the design, development and deployment of AI. One such company is Supple, headed by CEO Eldred Jordan, with the aim of not leaving Africa behind.
I've always said, if we are going to reach millions of people, we have to reach them in a way that the technology is accessible, but it speaks to them in their own mother tongue. So we are seeing massive strides being made in how technologies and applications using AI is able to reach millions of people, diverse, but in a localized manner.
In the meantime, the United Nations has also tasked a team of artificial intelligence experts to assemble a plan to help developing countries benefit from this AI boom. Its aim is also to deal with the dangers of AI. The UN has repeatedly warned that AI innovations have the propensity to spread false or misleading information online.
That was Jody Jacobs reporting. Now, recapping today's headlines, both Israeli and Palestinian health authorities have reported the detection of polio in samples of sewage circulating in Gaza as living conditions continue to worsen. Donald Trump has accepted the Republican Party's nomination in the U.S. presidential race. And the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has won a second 5-year term, vowing to boost the EU's industries and defense. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports and culture, you can subscribe to the Beijing Hour, a 1-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Qi Zhi. Thanks for listening.